Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite paranormal investigator. My name is Tim Sudano with Paranormal Insight. Tonight, I have one of my good friends, although we've never met in real life. We're fellow podcasters on the UPRN network here. Please welcome Kat Ward of Paranormal Heart to the... I hit the wrong button. Kat, welcome.
Thank you, my brother. How are you?
Not at all, sis. Thank you so much. We call each other brother and sister because we consider ourselves family. We've known each other for, what, a couple of years?
At least that, yeah. But like you said, we've never met in person.
Yeah. More's the pity. So,
I have to mention, with you hitting the wrong button, I'm so happy that I'm not the only one that has tech issues. It's just like...
You know, pardon me. It's just a matter of how tired I am, more than anything else. You know, as embarrassing as that is to admit, but nonetheless, yeah, here we are. You know, and I just kind of roll with the punches. If it gets too messy, we can always start over. But I digress. So tonight I want to talk about energy specifically, but not exclusively. The phenomenon of the weather, the atmosphere, if it's charged just so, even, you know, whether it's an approaching storm or a storm that's right on top of a given location, and you're doing an investigation, in your experience and mine, and comparatively others I've heard about, do you find, or have you had experience to where that level of energy just being present in the atmosphere supercharges a manifestation?
It hasn't happened. I've unfortunately have not investigated during a storm, because that's one of the things that I wanted to check, because we all us investigators theorize that these entities use energy to communicate with us. So I wanted to be able to test that theory during a thunderstorm, during investigations, to see if it would interfere with equipment, if it would just enhance the equipment so the entities can come through better. But unfortunately, I've never had the chance to do it yet.
That's okay. I have a story that kind of lends a little bit of credence to this idea. More than a little bit. Out in my neck of the woods on the West Coast, in the Oakland Harbor, I think it's the Oakland Harbor. I might have the title wrong, but it's in that area. And there's the now floating museum of the USS Hornet aircraft carrier.
Yep.
And one of the docents, I think he was on a really, it wasn't Ancient Aliens, it was something else along those lines, though, you know, one of the shows you'll watch just because it's your field, you know. And the docent is locking up. He's checking everything. There's a storm approaching the ship. And they're getting to a point to where the swells are actually starting to rock the boat in the harbor, you know.
Oh,
and
wow.
so he's kind of, you know, he's an old Navy guy anyway. Most of the docents there are former military, former Navy, some Coast Guard. There was an Air Force guy there once. That was kind of funny. But nonetheless, they launch planes off aircraft carrier, why not? But getting back to my point. So the docent's locking up. It's him and a few others just doing the lockdown procedure to get out of there, get off the ship. And he's on the flight deck, and he's doing this, and he kind of senses something. There's a lightning strike not too far away, out in the water somewhere. I mean, he wasn't in immediate peril or anything, but it's really kind of crackling all over the sky, and there's a strike in the water, and suddenly he sees a crew, like the old crew of the Hornet, running around. And they're in battle drill for some, you know, the Hornet saw World War II action, so a lot
Very
of it
haunted.
too. And then, so they, he sees them running, and it flashes like like someone's taken a strobe light to these guys, and it's not necessarily in sync with the lightning strikes or the cascades, but it's going off up in the clouds. It's diffused, but you can still see it, and it's kind of echoing it. It's not in sync with it, but it's echoing. So flash, here comes some sailor running through, and it looks like they're all there. It's a madhouse according to him. So they're definitely in a battle situation of some sort. Everyone's got their helmets on and they're running around kind of low and crouched. And he closes the door finally because he's out there. The ship is literally listing, up on down on the waves, and he's frozen because he's seen this weird thing happening on the deck. And he has a sensation of smoke in the air. And he says, "Oh God, did I get hit?" He's holding on to a metal ship in the middle of a lightning storm. So that was his first thoughts. Oh God, I got hit. So he latches the door. He looks at himself. No, he's fine. And he still can't get rid of that smell of smoke in his nose. Oh God, did the ship get hit? So he runs down. He's from the flight deck down to the lower deck where they keep the planes. Mm-hmm. And he's doing a last minute run around of this ship. He runs into another docent, and he's still processing that he saw these sailors, right? And he says, and he almost has a flashback to a degree, like it triggered something in him. He says, yeah, he's talking in like sailor code, if you will, naval code. And, it's like, we have to get to the aft section. I think there's an explosion. Something happened. He said, whoa, what are you talking about? Nothing happened. There was no explosion. You don't smell the smoke? And so his buddy gets concerned because these dudes are a bit older, 70s, Oh,
wow.
So, you smell toast. He's thinking stroke. His buddy's thinking stroke.
Yeah.
So he says, no, I smelled it. I saw the dude on the deck, and then I said, whoa, what? You saw what? We got to get you out of here. So he says, listen, I'll send Dave, Charlie, whoever it is, around to finish up your rounds. We got to get you to the doctor. Mm. And says, no, I'm totally fine. And he is. He's loosened. He's coherent. But he thinks something has happened to the ship. He says, we got to check the ship. It's like, fine. So he helps him kind of just do really a loose perimeter check and just... Yeah. Rushes him off the ship. They lock it up, and he gets him to a clinic. And they're sitting in the waiting room, and his buddy asks him, so what did you see? Because you said there were men on the deck. There was no one on the deck. You were the only one up there, because all the rest of us were, battening down for the ship for the end of close of day. And he says, I saw the men. I saw the men of the ship in their right uniforms, right? Helmets. They were in a combat situation. Mm-hmm. And he says, and it was in flashes. It's like someone was taking a photograph, super rapid style photographs. That's how he described it, versus a strobe, like what I said. But nonetheless, he's out there, and I have a little picture to add to the drama. So he says these sailors are running around, and it was chaos, man. And I guess I flash back to my own time in the service because my ship got hit. He later explains, and he said, but I mean, I smelled the smoke. You didn't smell the smoke? And no, buddy, I didn't smell the smoke. He says, if let's get you checked out. You seem okay to me, if not a little frazzled. Yeah. He says, well, first I thought I got hit by lightning because I smelled smoke. I was like, but I'm fine. So he actually kind of checks his buddy over as they're sitting in the waiting room, looking around him. And he says, I don't see any burn marks on you or anything like that. But he was so frazzled, this guy. He was just chattering. He wouldn't shut up. Not to be rude, he wouldn't shut up. But so he he has this, he has this appointment. Doctors check him out. They do a couple of quick tests. Doctor's not convinced he had stroke at all. Maybe a little elevated. His adrenaline's going for sure because his blood pressure's a little high and yada, yada, yada. No indications of a stroke. So he takes his buddy home and says, well, listen, sleep on it, and we'll go from there. And we'll try and figure out what's going on. And so he sleeps on it. And the next day, he, and this is the part where it gets kind of fuzzy as far as not my recollection, but I've heard the story change, but I'll tell the one I heard. He wakes up the next day and he's been on constant replay, this event. Yep. And he thinks he susses out one sailor's name. I can't remember what the name was, unfortunately, but he was, so he, they have the archive there on the Hornet, and, or have access to them anyway. So he says, okay, I'll find out who this guy is. He finds him, and it turns out he was one of the survivors of the torpedo hit that blew up the ammo magazine on the ship during World War II. And that's why everyone was scrambling. They had just suffered a major catastrophic impact. And the ship, they had to shut down portions of the bulkheads just so they could get home, and they limped home too. They were at minimal power and limped back to port. But he was able to confirm one of the sailors by his name as you so it gave him, I guess, not necessarily a peace of mind, but validation. Excellent way to put it. So that's the story of the USS Hornet, or one of them.
That's crazy. So it makes me wonder if the electricity, how can I put this in words? I can picture in my head what I want to say, but if the lightning strikes, if it just enabled him to be able to briefly see through the veil, or if they're already here and we just they're invisible, and because of the type of electricity, because there's a lot of current going through a bolt of lightning. It just enabled him to be able to see it, like maybe there's something in a lightning strike, because like cats can see different spectrum. Thank you. So maybe the lightning did something like that too, in order to let him see through into a different spectrum. Obviously, it's just pure speculation.
Yeah, my theory is that given that the ship itself is just a sponge for all that really intense energy during combat. That maybe it's always on repeat, because that torpedo hit affected a lot of people. And yes, there were folks who died, and some of those ghosts. So I'm thinking it's a residual thing that was given so much juice, amplified by the atmosphere and what was happening, that he was able to, it manifested in these weird stroby flashes across the deck, and it wasn't a whole picture. That's what he described. I forgot to mention that part. It wasn't the whole, whenever there was a lightning flash, he saw the entire deck full of people doing their jobs. It was that he saw, he did not. He saw them in patches. He saw them in patches of reality, crept through on the deck. So some at one end, some at the other, some in the middle, some going by him in the, at the door he's trying to secure. But, man.
Do you happen to know if after he found out the validation that where he because he got the name, do you know if he felt better afterwards, knowing that he's not necessarily losing it?
I think there was some relief there, yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
But he still had a hard time convincing everyone else. It's like, well, you're a dose and you do this kind of history research all the time, maybe you saw the name somewhere and that type of thing. But he insists, I saw the sailor's name.
Wow.
And I was able to validate it.
That's wild.
That in and of itself gives me, I don't know, like third party validation, I guess you could say that, our environment can affect what we perceive.
I don't know if you want to pause the recording. You seem to be a little choppy, and
So technical difficulties aside, I think it's just our computers catching up to the signal. I should be okay.
It's paranoid.
It's funny you mentioned that. Speaking of energy and all that, I think maybe there is something to be said that whether it's Big Brother or something of a higher plane. When I was on the air last week with Joe Montaldo, he was talking about something really specific. Say again?
I said I want to have him on too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just ask him. He's cool with it. But he was talking about one specific thing or another, and suddenly his entire internet dropped. That's and that doesn't happen to Joe, man. So yeah, he's got the
interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was on the air by myself for 5 minutes, but but
Crazy.
It's interesting. He says, that has never happened to me. I have backups to make sure that doesn't happen. And he completely lost everything. It wasn't a power loss. It's like all the equipment failed at the exact same time.
Weird.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah. I do want to mention about this electricity thing. So when it's bitterly cold, there's lots of static cling, right? Or static electricity. Have you ever been in bitter cold, like -40, -50? Sorry, that's Celsius.
In one very rare instance I was, but I live in California. It only gets that cold way up the mountains.
Well, when we lived in Alberta, we went it was wintertime, and I got a few friends. I was starting a team out when we were living there, thinking we were retiring out there, but we're actually retiring in Ontario. But anyways, it was bitterly cold. So we're doing the investigation at this place called jeepers, the Wainwright Hotel, I think it was it. So it was a hotel that was built in the early 1900s, and it had caught fire, and there was a bad fire going through the whole town. Even the fire marshal's house burnt. It was horrible. Yeah, it was bad. So when they rebuilt, when they were going to be rebuilding the hotel, they thought, well, are we going to rebuild it out of wood, or how are we going to do it? So they decided to rebuild it with continuously poured concrete. So back in the early 1900s, that was probably no easy feat, bringing that into this little town, right? Yeah. I don't even know how they got it there. But anyways, they rebuilt it. It was a beautiful, beautiful hotel, and it was said to be haunted. And so we went in to do an investigation, and it was really, really cold. And I just opened up a brand new pack of batteries, put it in the camera. Of course, they're dead. And it's just like, are you kidding me?
Dead.
Yeah, dead already. It's like,
it's the batteries.
Yeah. So I don't know. We did have these things happen. So there was this one section where I put the motion sensor. We didn't have enough cameras, so we didn't have one with the motion detector. And you probably have heard motion detectors go off. It's just ear-piercing sound. So we put it in one of the. So by the time we're doing the investigation, the building is gutted. There's no wires. There's no plumbing. There's holes in certain parts of the floors. It's a 3-story building. It's no walls. It's just gutted. So it was a perfect location for the haunted house. Let me tell you. Oh my God, that was fun. Anyways, so we put the motion detector in one of the rooms, and then we went all the way down the hall to listen. Now, again, there's no plumbing, no wires, so nothing should be going off, right?
All
The
right.
motion detector goes off as I'm just thinking something like my spidey senses are tingling, right? And all of a sudden down the hall, it goes off and it's just like, oh my God. And everybody's we're all looking at each other. So I was wondering if the bitter cold from that too had something to do with some of the activity that we had.
What was your motion dissenter? Motion dissenter? Oh my gosh, motion sensor, battery operated
Yes,
as well.
it was.
Okay,
Yep.
it could be. I mean, you could if you're having battery issues, you're gonna get odd malfunctions. I mean, the lower and lower it gets, it'll freak out. I mean, most machines, especially older machines, do that. Newer machines will just stop.
Yeah.
But my guess would be, yeah, you had it. Well, it was a factor. Whether I can't guarantee anything, you probably
Yeah.
maybe did catch something. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah.
We've all had that thing where nothing's down the hall and the motion sensor goes off, super cold or not.
Yep.
I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
always fun. It's like, yeah, something's moving down there. Is it just a big cloud of dust? What's going on? But I mean, no, I don't know. I don't think so.
And it was
I
pretty cool
mean,
because where the light switches used to be, it's just a hole in the wood. You don't even have the metal anymore. But when you take your EMF detector, some of them it was lighting up. And I'm like, why? I don't understand. That was odd.
it could be leftover radiation because how old was this building?
It was built in the early 1900s,
When was it rebuilt?
1930s, I want to
Okay,
say.
that answers
Yeah.
a few questions. It's interesting. We just came off a case, JJ and I, this a couple days ago, and they had. This is why I think it's leftover radiation, EMF radiation from the electrical socket, because they have similar wiring in this old house they live in. These are clients, and they, it was like, if you get too close to the wire where they are in the wall, it got toxically, the meter goes red. And it's like, oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. I mean, nothing's below ground. This is all aerial wiring still in this neighborhood. It's an older neighborhood too. So that's what makes me think the wood probably absorbed a lot of radiation. So it probably
Never
got
even
cooked.
thought of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a guess. Or
It was
could have been a
interesting too
ghost.
because, yeah, it could have been. We have no way of finding
We have
out.
no real. My go-to is the radiation thing, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting too because I had someone tell me that up on the top floor. I think I might have told you this before. I don't remember. I was told that on the third floor, towards the back of the building, the very last bedroom on the left, she went in with an EMF detector and it would just light up like a Christmas tree. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we go in and yep, sure enough, it's going off. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm looking around and then I look out the window. We're on the third story, 8 to 10 feet away from us are the power lines. And there's also the metal fire escape up against there. So I'm just like, well, that's why, but
That's
I was
it.
kind of disappointed, but I was like, yeah, sure enough, the closer we're getting
Yeah.
towards the back to that room, it's starting to activate. And then, yeah, I look outside and it's just like, ugh. Disappointed, but you have to
Well,
ask these questions.
you do. I mean, that's the point of being an investigator in the first place. You're technically there as much as you want to believe. You're technically there to disprove.
Yeah.
Or come up with the alternate answer, maybe the more obvious answer that not everyone knows about. With regard to energy, once again, with this last case JJ and I worked, it was, like I said, the wiring was old, but the two ladies in there and one of the dudes, one of the guys that was living there, are sensitive anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because they have all this near toxic EMF fields bouncing all over their house. I don't know how they stay healthy. They're but but it seemed to amplify their experiences. They would see things all the time, like every day. When we were there, she was having pareidolia.
I can never remember how to pronounce that. I know what you mean.
That's where. Well, when you see faces,
Yeah.
in patterns, basically, like in clouds and stuff like that. Well, she was seeing it in this one section of her wall, and it was, if you look closely, you can see the way the mud tiling, when they mudded the wall. Yeah, okay, it kind of looked like a face, but she really just isolated that in her head. So I said, that's pareidolia, but you seeing orbs in your bedroom doesn't really make much sense. But then it did, because we have all the toxic EMF fields powering all this stuff. They one of the people came under like a light attack after we left. They got scratches, and I'm thinking the one lady sleeps with her cat. I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's a stretchy cat. That happened to me a long time ago when I had cats, and same area too. It was over here.
Oh wow.
Because if the cat, you fall asleep on the couch or whatever, or if they sleep in your bed with you, they're going to stretch out at one point and
My cat does, yeah.
Yeah. And and the pattern, the way the pattern looks, like, that looks like the same scratch I had them, because the paws crisscrossed, as they stretched out. So
I like how you do that.
So I said, yeah. Well, I gotta show people what's going on, but and she does have this cat. I mean, it's constantly in her room, and all that. And I think the cat to sleep with her on the bed there, and I imagine that's what it was. Although they have some really freaky stuff happening there, and lot of old spirits in that area, because the whole area used to be an orchard that was worked by a ton of different people over the decades. Yeah. So, and they're by a creek, so lots of energy conveys that way.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it was kind of like the reverse of a Faraday cage.
Yeah,
people were living in. I was like, oh my goodness,
crazy.
Yeah.
Now it makes me wonder. We did an investigation once at it was an old house, but it was turned into a spa, and they were telling us that they were having this activity. It used to be the living room, and that's where the lobby is, where you can go pay and all that stuff. And they said we have a lot of activity here. We see things, So they have this great big cupboard behind them, and we're like, well, what's behind the cupboard? They opened it up, and it's the power box, the fuse box. And we're like, well, yeah, because that's, so, and we told them, you need to bring in an electrician here, because even before they opened it, we had the EMF detectors, and it was spiking. It's just like, oh my, and then opened it up, and it's like, okay, that's why. So it makes me wonder, though, is EMF making people see things, or is it and they're not really there, or is it helping them see things? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I don't know. Well, that's always been a question for me. The easy answer is it's making them hallucinate. I don't know. If my clients we just had, they were already sensitive in their own rights. I mean, they're not JJ powerful, but nonetheless, they're pretty powerful. They're sensitive. Sorry, I got a little lost in my words there. But at the same time, so who's to say your clients were equally, at least partially sensitive and that type of thing, and the EMF was, overclocking their minds, which I think is happening with my clients. And so they're just, they're able to absorb all this stuff just because they have the ability to see it. I had a curiosity. What were they seeing or reporting?
I don't remember. That was like 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, but I did bring because I haven't used it in a long time, but I'm an amateur radio operator, and I collect Morse keys for Morse code. And I had heard that sometimes if you bring a Morse key, so I brought one, and I had the camera there too. I made sure that we had the camera angled towards, like, well, you could see the room, but you could see the key as well. And nothing happened. And I was like, come on. It's just a little, just a little button here.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Give me that.
Yeah.
Nothing. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, that was the only time that I used it. So if ever I go out on another investigation, I plan on bringing one with me again.
Interesting. I have I'm lucky. I got JJ in my team. I've always wanted to try the spirit bell though.
Spirit bell?
The spirit bell. It depends on what school of, I don't know, I guess spirituality you come from.
Mm-hmm.
There's a more modern version, which is basically ding, an attention bell, like you have at the front of a hotel or whatever.
Yep.
On a block of wood. And it just ding, that's all it's there for. And but you give the ghost something to touch that's kind of just perfectly balanced,
Gotcha,
or
yeah.
you can get something. It's basically a little mini cowbell, and you hang it on a string somewhere, wherever you can just anchor it and let it dangle in the air. It's like, ring that bell for me, that kind of thing. Like maybe the old bells on Christmas trees, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, spirit bells, and if they ring them, you got something, I guess. Especially if they ring them aggressively for some kind of. It's like, that's really hard to manipulate if you do it like that,
Yeah.
Especially if no one's there.
Actually, yeah, I have brought. I think I have brought bells with me before. Now that I think of it, but I didn't realize that there was an actual term for it.
Yeah, spirit bells, yeah, it's good times. That's one of my next things I want to try out. I should have brought one, but I didn't think about it in time. But going back to our energy idea.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to mention. Well, you go first, and I'll mention it after.
Okay. Now I lost my train of thought, so go ahead.
I derailed your train. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I started, because I am a sensitive and I get weather migraines. I had to get,
really?
Yeah, I get, I have these piercings in my ears. They're called dates, and it's supposed to help with migraines, which it really does. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. The dates piercing, yeah. So I started realizing there was a correlation between people that were sensitive and if they were sensitive to like thunderstorms. And everybody that I spoke to, I'd say, here's a question. Do you get weather migraines? And they're like, yeah, all the time. It's horrible. I'm like, so do I. And it's like, I started seeing a correlation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. There's that energy thing there. So we're picking, like, my husband calls me the human barometer, because when we were in Alberta, my head could actually detect a severe thunderstorm that was 3 hours away from us. Because I was always wondering, like, I wonder how far I can actually sense it, right? Yeah, we put it to the test, and it wasn't really raining where we were at the time, but I had a nasty headache. But I know it was probably the elements were starting to build and everything. But yeah, 3 hours away at least. And it's just interesting how energy can affect us like that.
Yeah. You're, if I'm not mistaken, gosh, I took one course of meteorology because I thought that's what I wanted to do. It's a little more involved than I thought. But I think you're dealing with air ionization.
Okay. And there's also infrasound too, because I've never taken the course, but I wanted to be a meteorologist. But in front of the wind, when a storm approaches, there's infrasound. So it could be that too.
Could be that too. Yeah. Could be that too. But if I remember correctly, the in front of a storm front, the ionization is insane. insane. It reaches miles. But the infrasound does as well. You're absolutely correct about that. Yeah. So it could be one or both, or who knows. But that's an interesting thing.
I wonder if anyone's ever done any real research for it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If anyone, whoever's watching or listening to this,
piece of research.
Yeah, anyone watching or listening to this, if ever you've done research on correlations between people who are sensitive and they get weather headaches, please reach out to us because we want to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
That's right. And definitely reach out. That'd be fun. That'd be great. Whether you're in Canada, what part of Canada are you in again?
I'm in Ontario.
Okay, so if you're in Ontario, you can look at CAD. If you're in San Jose, California, you can look me up. Either or. But one of the things also dealing with energy is the human factor. I mean, it's varied. JJ explained it best the other day when we were with our clients. It's like everybody's a little bit psychic, some a little bit more, some a little bit less.
Eyesight.
And then,
It's like eyesight. Some have really like 20/20 vision, perfect, and others, we need to wear glasses.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's very true. That's an excellent analogy. Better than what I was going to say. But there was as she was explaining this, she kept, the client just kind of opened up more and more and more. It's like, gosh, you know what? So I should pay attention to what I'm feeling more, is what you're saying. Yeah, you have an instinct for a reason, it's some have, and this was the mother in the household. Okay. And moms go through a radical physiological change when they become mothers. Their prefrontal and frontal cortex really just hyper develop even further than what it is.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And they think that's where all that extrasensory perception really kind of comes into regarding motherhood. Like, your kid's in danger, or, something's off one way or another about your child or children. And you could just pick up on it. It's like, put it down. You're in the other room. Put it down. Okay.
My kids used to think I had eyes behind my head because I wouldn't even have to be in the same room, and I could tell by the sound of what they were doing exactly what they were doing. So I'd say, I don't unlock that door or whatever, and I need to hear a little whisper. How does she know?
Mom is wise.
Super hearing though, because I remember I had a friend over playing cards. Kids were sleeping. I'm like, oh, I'll be right back. Daughter's crying, and she's like, what? And I went. It's like, yeah, she was crying. She goes, how did you hear that? I'm like, I have no idea. I just how did you not hear it? So yeah, things get heightened when we're moms.
Yeah. That's true. That's very.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
There's
sorry.
Also, no, not at all. That's fine. I was gonna relay another mom moment. There's everyone talks about mom strength, and it's based on, at least as far as I know, it's based on that one incident that everyone kind of knows about, where that one mother, the car fell on her kid as he was working on his car, and so she powered through, lifted the car up, but the kid was too injured to move, and she couldn't let go of the car. She was two-handed this thing as it was. And this kid runs in, oh my God, go get help. And it took like 5 or 10 minutes to get help. And there was mom just burning through it, just sweating like an idiot. And she's got this thing up, and a couple of guys dive under the car, pull the kid out, and she drops it, and she's exhausted. Obviously. But
wow.
Yeah, I mean, the hyper adrenaline just kicked in. She held that thing for 5 minutes.
I had some. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say like at least a ton. Ton of a car. 1 ton car.
I had something like that happen, but not nearly as heavy. Kids had bunk beds. And so our oldest was sleeping. She was a toddler then, and she was sleeping on the bottom, and the baby that we had was sleeping in the crib. But we had the thing next to the bed so they don't roll out. There's rails that you can get.
Guardrails.
Yeah. I didn't put any on the other side because the bed was up against the wall. All of a sudden, I hear a thunk, and she starts to cry. So I run in, and I always had a hard time moving that that bunk bed. Oh no, I just like whoosh, almost went across the room, and I picked her up like, "Are you okay?" You know. So and then after that, we got another rail for the other side. But I was just like, and afterwards, I was just like, "How the heck did I move that so far?"
Yeah, mom strength for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
For sure. And it's not just moms though. I mean, there was a guy. You remember the show Magnum PI?
Oh yeah.
The old one, not the new one.
There's a new one?
It's been on for like 3 or 4 years. It got canceled pretty quick.
Oh.
But the Tom Selleck version, there was an incident. They ran out that chopper and the pilot that TC flies, the character TC, and they. Well, he had the pilot himself is an actual Vietnam era helicopter pilot, so he's pretty good with the stick, and so he's assisting a friend of a friend with something or another regarding. I think he had to lift something like cargo lifts, like a car or something. I can't remember what now, and they get the car up, moved over. And suddenly something goes wrong with the chopper, and it tail spins out, and he goes, down at the edge of this body of water. I think it was an artificial lake or a pond or something. And his buddy is there, and his buddy was in Vietnam with him. They worked together, and so his buddy's in trouble. He goes over there, and you've seen the video somewhere. He's a bigger papa, I'm making 300, maybe 400 pounds. He's a big dude. And he goes trucking on down the thing, and he takes the whole helicopter. They're not the heaviest things in the world, but they're heavy enough, right? And he goes, and he lifts this thing up because the water is seeping into the pilot side. He's going to drown his friend. So he lifts this thing out of the water. The third guy whose car or whatever, or tractor or whatever it was that was in trouble, dives in, pulls him out just in time. This guy was holding it there too. It was amazing. It was amazing to see because they were recording the whole thing just for whatever reason. But I guess for insurance purposes, they were recording it. So, okay, this is what I had to do to my tractor, and yada, yada, yada. But it was amazing to see this dude take a whole chopper and lift it out of the water. I mean,
it's amazing what adrenaline can do.
Yeah. It really is. It really is.
Yeah. Wow.
But, well, we went from energy and spirit to super strength.
Well, we always do that. You and I, we can hardly ever keep on topic.
We kind of talked about the energy thing anyway, to a degree. We'll probably circle back down to it. But
because that's what we do.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So please bear with us.
Yeah, well, yeah, bear with us. Enjoy the ride, whatever it is.
I like your version better.
Okay, excellent. We'll use that one. But one of the crazier things that, again, okay, we are going back to energy, is I guess you can call it phantom energy. And I don't mean the kind where you plug a microphone in and suddenly it works. I mean, let's call it phantom power. But I refer to this case all the time. People are probably sick to death of me talking about it, but this is the one where the guy stepped through the mirror, the demon monkey galloped down the hall. My listeners probably know that one. One of the part of that story was that the cell phone, when my partner Henry was, and Scary was around still, he consummate skeptic. The cell phone goes off, and it was one of the reports at ungodly hours. No one has set alarm for this thing. It just goes off like an alarm, and it has this demented, like melting kind of music box. It's really disharmonious and horrible. Dare I say, evil sounding. Very dark, anyway. So it goes off. My buddy Henry says, "You got another alarm system you can use, like an alarm clock?" "Yeah, I have an old clock radio I can use." I was like, "Okay." Pops the battery out, separates it from the device. There you go. And then it rings again in his hand. No power in it whatsoever. So there's another aspect of energy. I mean, did it come from him? Maybe.
Is there a little residual? A little residual.
Oh, see, that's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. He said that had to be it. But the residual energy, because he was stunned. He was just like, he froze. I've never seen this guy freeze in my life, but he's like, he's looking at this device, and it went on for a bit. Maybe 10, 15 seconds, and on residual power, I don't know, man. I'd be surprised. It could have come from him, but even then, human energy output has to be at a really specific frequency to affect electronic devices, and not everybody does that. Some people do. Like, remember Jurassic Park when Sam Neill's character touches the screen and it goes all fuzzy because he doesn't interact with technology well? Same idea, but that wasn't him. He was, he built his own computers. So,
oh wow, yeah.
If he could do that, you think he'd be destroying more computers than actually building them. But no, I mean that wasn't it either. He said residual power source, but I mean there was just too much activity coming off that phone for that to be the case.
Interesting.
In my personal estimation. So I guess that's another form of energy that that these spiritual entities can input into a given device or whatever.
When I was in my early 20s, I used to work at a call center with a company called, maybe I shouldn't pronounce. Yeah, I'm not going to say who it is. Anyways,
a company.
A company. It was a commercial credit bureau that's very well known around the world.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we used to have a headset, and we'd speak to our clients, and we had like a little box that you could either push mute or put up the volume or put it down. Well, I was the only one in the office. I used to have to change the batteries on those so often. It was ridiculous. Like several times a week. So I was draining their battery reserve, just like, I'm sorry, the batteries died again. I touch it and I get a little bit of a shock, and it's like,
oh.
So they had, it was really weird. They would have to, they finally got one of those, those mats, because it was a rolling chair on carpet. But even if I wasn't moving, because I'm not sitting there rolling my chair around, but it's just, I don't know. So once they got me one of those mats, then it stopped. But it's just interesting. It's just like I would. You're conducting
that much energy. You're actually draining power. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd go up to my supervisor and I'd just stand there and smile, and they're like, again. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. And so it got to the point because it was a great big what do you call that, cabinet, metal cabinet. No, it was a cabinet that they had all of the like batteries, pens, paper, everything that we needed for the office, right? And it was always locked. It got to the point I just go up to them and say, "Can I have the keys to the tickle trunk?" Yes, here. They give me the keys, and I go grab what I needed because they trusted me. I wouldn't steal anything, lock it up, go give them the keys. It was just like, how are you doing this? Like, I don't know.
Should have just given you your own key.
Yeah, right? Wear it around my neck or something, yeah. But I was the only one in the office that ever did that.
Well, that's intriguing. That's very intriguing. Oh, man, that's too cool. I like that. There was a buddy of mine way back when, he put up an electric fence. I'll never forget that. I felt so bad for his wife. So
no.
he liked to demonstrate, how cool he was. Says,
Oh no.
yeah, I put an electric fence around my 4-foot koi pond looking thing that was in the back of the backyard. And he did it because all his fish would get taken all the time by the raccoons and whatever else, hawks and stuff like that. And I guess word got around to the animal kingdom that it was free food. So he finally put up a fence. And the first victim was a hawk.
Oh no.
And the poor thing got fried. And it was a big bird too. And he couldn't suss out what he was looking at first. It's like, what the heck is that? And then he realized, God, it's a bird, it's a hawk, So Animal Patrol came out and took care of that. But he would find bits of flesh on there sometimes. Oh, no. Finally, I guess word got around to the animal kingdom, don't mess with this area because you will. Because it stopped happening. Well, one of the things you like to do, that's powered by a box that's supposed to protect an entire square acre of land. It's like, okay, that's overkill. It was free. It's like, all right, it was free, yeah. So he says, look at this, boom, and he'd be wearing boots, and he'd grab it, but he was grounded, so nothing happened.
Yeah.
His wife.
Oh no.
His poor wife. I don't know if they were entertaining and maybe they got a little tipsy. They weren't heavy drinkers at all, but sometimes you socially drink and it gets away from you. That's I don't recall, to be completely honest with you, but she tries it. She's in her feet.
Oh no.
And she doesn't get blown back, but she gets a hell of a jolt. And poor thing. She had this burn mark on her hand forever. Oh no. My God. Poor thing. Yeah. So I said, maybe you should just cover it. Put a little mesh over there and said, it's okay. Lessons are learned. I was like, all right, dude, whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. You bring up the electric fence, because whenever I get people telling me, like, how can you sense, you can't feel energy, like when we're on investigations or whatever. And I'm like, have you ever been next to an electric fence? The closer you go, you feel the energy from the fence. And then you see the lights go on, like, oh,
I get it.
We had this one investigation. It was amazing. So the lead investigator is very, very, she's like a JJ. So talented, and it's amazing. I've only come across a handful of people that were that talented, and she's one of them. So this woman was talking about some activity in the hall and all that, and she looks at it's antique mirror. I think it was from her grandfather or something, and she says, "That's a portal," and I'm like, "Portal, okay." And she says, "Yeah, things are coming through." I walked up to the mirror and I didn't touch it, but the closer I was going, I could feel the energy. It was amazing. Yeah. And then she was able to close it, and then I went over and I didn't feel anything afterwards. That to me was, I was so flabbergasted. Crazy. I was like, this is so cool.
That's amazing.
Like, the closer I got, the more the energy, like approaching an electric fence. It was just like, holy hell. Yeah. And it's like, it's closed now. I was like, okay, I'm going to go. It's like, I don't feel anything from it. That was very impressive.
Very cool.
Yes.
Let's take a quick station break. This is going to be 80 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back right after this. This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Our symbol, the trident, gifted to us by the priests of Troy Xenos centuries ago when one of the first monster hunting teams out of Corinth battled a contingent of Vrykula that had infested their temple. After the victory over the monsters, the head priest declared, "You are 3 lances acting as one, not unlike Poseidon's mighty trident of light. That would become our name, the the trident of light, for the good we did and still do against the dark evils of this world.
Available at Amazon Books. Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, ask questions, and see what chilling paranormal stories we're following. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos. And we're back. So, getting back to the whole energy thing briefly, at least briefly. When we use our various instruments, EMF meters, and what have you, sometimes they could be affected by odd things you wouldn't really think of. I only just learned recently that if you have a radio system like walkie-talkies, those can totally affect your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you do the push to talk.
Yep. That just surprised me is all. That's all.
I know I don't like having my cell phone with me when I investigate, just because it does affect the equipment. But sometimes I need to put it on airplane mode, and because I need to use the flashlight just to see, because I can't see bubkiss in the dark. Like yeah. So then I got a headlamp, but it's interesting. It's interesting what will make certain pieces of equipment go off.
Yeah, the false readings is you really have to watch out for. I was on. Let's see, was that my case or was that someone else's case? Regardless, we were going through a space, and it was something. It wasn't the radio though. It was something else. I wish I could remember what it was. Maybe it was their cell phone. Oh, I know. It has nothing. Okay, it wasn't. My brain stopped. I transposed stuff. This was actually a film I was working on. We've probably heard stories like this before, but I was on sound, and once in a while I hear dig, 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 dig. It's because someone really close to me who had their cell phone on, and I could hear the scan happening for a signal.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's like, oh God, everyone, airplane mode right now, or turn them off.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. But I mean, it's still fascinating to take into account how sensitive not only we are, and I'll get to something else about that in a second, but how sensitive the stuff we make are. I mean, collectively as humans, and almost fallible fallible in the same way. It's like there's interference that can give you a false positive.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know if you do. Sorry, I just want to quickly say I don't know if you do this. We go and do a base reading when we first start the investigation, just to see where we're going to pick things up.
Yeah, that's exactly what my job is on our little team. I'm the baseline guy, and then also I'm looking for things like I pointed out on the last case. It's like all this old wiring coming into the house and just turning every other room into a hot zone. It was horrible.
Copper wiring?
Yeah, old school copper wiring. I mean, I don't think that stuff's been touched since 1948 when the place went up.
Wow.
So, yeah, old school wiring systems. And I was going to make a thing. One of the benefits of being sensitive to electromagnetic stuff like I am, I don't necessarily need an EMF meter because I kind of am one.
Nice.
If I drive down the road near one of those power stations, those little auxiliary power stations, I start getting a bit of a headache, And I remember this one case. Yeah, I remember this one case we were on where we went to this house that had been it was either demolitioned or it caught fire or something happened to it to where it just pretty much fell apart. And including, I think maybe it caught fire because everything about it burned all the way down to the basement. And so it was literally, it was a sub-level, ground up rebuild, but it wasn't done to code.
Oh.
It was done in a day when you didn't need to do it to code. So it was built originally in the 40s or 50s, burned down, and in the 70s it was rebuilt, like by hand, by a guy who was good at construction, but not necessarily good at electrics. He did an interesting thing. He also the kind of neighborhood where you have a lot of lines coming in, they're above ground. So he grabbed that main trunk and he dipped it down right into the house, like you might expect coming from an aerial, right? But what he didn't do was, sorry, my little alarm went off. What he didn't do was it's like he didn't ground something properly, or something was off, because we get a report. This one kid, he calls us like independently of his family. He has complained to them, or not complained, but pleaded with them. It's like, we got to get someone out here. You get a priest out here. I'm seeing weird stuff, strange things. Huh?
How old's the kid?
About 17.
Okay.
Or 18. Young, like really young. This is maybe 10 years ago, give or take. And yeah, so we meet with him. We go to his house. He gives us the tour of what he's been seeing. We baseline, and as we're doing the baseline, I hit this. Not hit, but I felt like I was about to run into something. There was nothing there. And then I kind of put my hand out a little bit, and sure enough, I can feel something is giving off energy, So I literally duck under it. It was that kind of a reaction. So it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Yeah.
And my co-person on that particular case wasn't JJ or Henry, it was someone else. And he walked straight through it. I said, "You didn't feel that?" He says, "Feel what? What are you talking about?" So, it's like, okay, never mind. That's fine. I know what I felt. And so I'm looking at the layout of the house overhead, because I'm in the basement at this point. And I'm thinking, oh, that's about where the junction box is. So someone wired that thing really bad, and this kid's room was directly above us. The junction box was at this dividing wall between the kitchen and his room, and all the activity was in the direction of that power box. So he was getting flooded with some really high-end toxic readings.
No kidding.
Yeah. But the fact that I had to duck out of the way, the field on this thing was so strong. Yeah.
And again, is it making him hallucinate, or is it making him able to see? Like, we don't know.
In his case, I got like 30 questions I ask people, always have. And it's like, are you sensitive? Do you see ghosts anyway outside of this thing, or is this your first time? He says, no, I've never seen anything before. I didn't even believe in this stuff until all this happened. It's like, oh, okay. So my guess is it just kind of messed with him really bad. And I wouldn't be surprised at that, because, you and I both know that you get high-end products, super close proximity to that much EMF, it's going to mess with you big time.
No kidding,
and
yeah.
Each person is different, but still it's going to mess with you. And this guy was seeing some bizarre things, but always in the same corner. He could have been a burgeoning visionary. I mean, not visionary, but psychic. But his experience to that date didn't really indicate that.
Would be interesting to find out if after this event, is he seeing things in other locations now?
He didn't like my answer.
No.
And he said, okay, so I'm crazy. I said, I didn't say you're crazy. I said, you're being affected by all the EMF over there.
Yeah, that's not being crazy.
So there's nothing to investigate. Properly shield that box and your problems are going to be over, is what I told him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he really wanted it to be something supernatural. And I get that.
We know that feeling, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I get it. But at the same end, clients, I get sometimes, and certainly in the past, they're a little too into their own research,
Yeah. Yep.
So it's kind of like the hypochondriac who says, "I must have this, that, and the other thing, doc." It's like, nope, it's just pimples, whatever,
Yep.
as an example. But no, some of these guys, they just hyper research stuff. I think it's really this case, and they'll find obscure stuff because they've been up till 2 a.m. researching, and they find and they're surprised when I don't know about it. It's like, yeah, dude, I've been doing this a while, but I don't have every single case that ever happened everywhere encyclopedically lodged in my head.
Yeah, right.
Because I had this one client swore up and down she had a poltergeist.
Yeah.
She did not have any of the classic stuff that would even suggest a poltergeist. Whereas the client we just had did have the activity. I mean, they caught it on their cameras and stuff flopping out on their own.
Wow.
But, it was cool. It was not cool, but, I was very happy to get this case.
Yeah.
It's scary for them, really cool for me.
Yeah. Great.
And I always have to remind myself of that. Because I caught myself in the past a couple of times going, God, that's so cool. What? I mean, that, I gotta backtrack. It's like, sorry. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Client. It was...
Yeah. I think we've all done that at least once. This is amazing.
At least once. I'm guilty of a few, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah. Where we're like, this is so cool. And your client's sitting there and shaking in their skivvies,
Jumping out of their skin at every sharp little noise. Oh, man. But sorry, going back to my little story there, they insisted they were haunted, and it turned out it was just some bad pipes.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. We had this one investigation, and we were in the basement, and at the other side of the basement, one of the kids' toys goes off. I was like, okay. So I go over. I guess it had been sitting there for I don't know how long, right? So I go over, open it up. There's no friggin' battery in it.
Ooh,
I can't remember if it was a train or what it was, but I just looked at the team and they're like, what? I'm like, there's no battery. So for a split second, you're just like, like in disbelief. But then we're all like, cool. But yeah, like the battery had been hit for quite a while, so I can't see where there would be residual energy in there from a battery. You'd think it would have dissipated by then.
Yeah.
No.
I think so. I think so. Oh, that's so cool. See, it's cool. To us, it's super cool.
And everybody else is like, no, it's not.
It's like, not cool, man. Not when it's happening in your house. It's like,
well, yeah, that's true. True.
Yeah. I can't. Like I said, I've made the mistake a couple of times, but I'm very, very cognizant now, saying interesting.
Yes.
Just
and try
assigning.
not to be so enthusiastic.
Right, exactly. That's super interesting. Yeah, that's. Oh, one word I stopped using. Crazy. I do it here all the time, Don't say that to a client. Because they already feel bad enough. For all you junior investigators out there.
The do's and don'ts.
Avoid the word crazy in your conversations.
Yeah, I've
they
said
will
that
take
during.
it personally.
I've said that during interviews too. That's crazy. It's just like, yeah. Like, sorry.
And you got to backtrack. It's like, not you're crazy. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Oh my goodness.
Getting back on getting back to the false positives for a second, I just wanted to mention to anybody who's ever wanted to get into paranormal investigating, know your equipment and know what it can do. Because first time I got, I don't know how to pronounce it, the FLIR, the thermal imaging gun.
Sure.
I had a friend say, just play with it before you use it in an investigation. Oh, my family I was driving them crazy for the longest time. I'd touch the wall and I'd see my handprint on the FLIR. I go 5 minutes later and it's still there, but just it's starting to dissipate, like it's not as strong. And I was thinking, say we're on investigation and one of the team members walked by and they happened to touch the wall. Then I come along with a FLIR and I'm like, oh my God, there's a handprint. No. So I would touch the dog's back, which I was getting. I could see the handprint on the dog's back. I go outside, touch the tree, which I didn't get anything. I had my son. Oh, I scared the bejesus out of myself. Actually, I got my son because we had the basement. I said, go outside because we had huge windows in the basement. I said, go outside. I just want to see how far I can see through the glass, if anything. It's like, okay, could not pick him up. And all of a sudden I'm looking, I'm just like, oh my God, I see a woman. And then I looked at the glass and I realized I'm going like this. And it's like, oh, it's me. I was close enough to the glass that I don't know, the temperature
reflection.
It caught my reflection. And for a split second, I thought, oh my God, I got a ghost. But so, yeah, please figure out what your equipment is capable of doing before.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good story. That's a nice little. I think if I were to ever tell a junior ghost hunter looking to get into this business, paranormal investigator, I guess you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, don't be afraid. Chiefly, because you already have clients that are afraid. If you're into this because you think it's neat and what you saw on TV is cool, maybe shadow a guy or a gal who's been doing this for a couple of years at least, has gotten over that fear, because you will. That's one thing I did personally, because I knew I had a fear of these things because of my past experiences. So I actually went to a bunch of psychics, men. I think I've told this story before. All men. It was the weirdest circle I've ever seen in my life. Usually it's women who are psychic.
Yeah.
But this was a circle of men who were psychic. And, they had experiences and spirits and whatever else. And I said, well, I'm looking to do this as if not a career, certainly as a hobby. I want to help people in some way, shape, or form, and this is the best way I think to do it. But I'm afraid of spirits. I'm afraid of ghosts and what I'm going to see. I mean, if they present themselves, I'm thinking horror movie ghosts where they're bloody and messed up, the axe is sticking out of the head and that type of stuff. Yeah. As a filmmaker, I know to make that happen, but in reality, I don't really want to see that walking around the corner.
Yeah, no kidding.
That would be horrible. So they said, okay, well, great. And they put me into like a trance-like state, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and they got me nice and calm and relaxed. And when I came out of it, they said, look around, tell me what you see. And I saw my first ghost for the first time in 15 years, since I was a very little boy. And it didn't scare me at all. In fact, it was kind of, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It was kind of boring. It was a humanoid silhouette. and this humanoid was trying to hide behind this big overgrown bush in the backyard where we had it was a hot summer night, so we're all outside.
Mhm.
And so his thing's hiding behind the bush, and he keeps chucking rocks at me. And they go chick 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 across the ground, and they just kind of roll up to my feet. They wouldn't really hit me, but this thing was trying. And it was only after I noticed it. And the way it looked, it was filled in. It was whitish, semi-translucent or transparent. And it was like it was filled with like a very soft undertone of a diffused version of it, if you prefer, of television static.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that's how I depicted it. How I visualized it, rather.
Wow, that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Doing that. I also have to mention that as an investigator, we all get afraid at least once or a little sketched out, but the professionalism kicks in and you don't show that to the client. There was this one private residence we did. We had all been drinking coffee and we really needed to use the bathroom. None of us wanted to use it. I approached we had already investigated it, right? And it was a really, really old building, and it was weird. So you had the toilet and a sink, and then you had to go down the hall, go all the way around to where the shower was. And it's just like, it was a really weird setup. It was built, I don't know how long ago, but it was a really old building. So I don't know if the shower was an afterthought or I don't know. But yeah, none of us wanted to use the washroom. But of course, we wouldn't say that in front of the client. It's like, hey, I really don't think I have to go right now. I'll just go after the investigation, you know. So then we went to our local coffee shop, that the closest one, Tim Hortons, actually up here, and we all went to use the washroom there. And we were just laughing driving there. It's like, oh my God, none of us were brave enough to go use the bathroom.
What was it about the bathroom?
Oh, I don't know. It was just, this was
Just
like
a vibe,
15 years ago. Yeah, I can't remember what the story was, why they were having activity in the bathroom. But yeah, you could definitely tell, like, as soon as you approach it, it's just like, yeah, I really don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also found on the other side of the wall, they had a lot of plumbing in there. And when we're following the plumbing, it was actually lighting up the EMF. So it's just like, well, that's kind of weird. So maybe it was just EMF we were picking up on.
Could be.
Yeah, but none of us.
A stray wire touching the pipes, that would amplify things a little bit.
Yeah, it was really, but none of us, not one. It's like, yeah, I'm good. I think it's not that bad. I'll just wait. But we're all kind of like dancing around.
I was like, gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us over. See ya.
Yeah. Nothing's here. Bye.
Well, look, there, your girl's free. Gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching and listening to this, don't think that paranormal investigators are never afraid, because it does happen.
It does, yeah. Especially when you get those ooky feelings. I mean, those super ooky feelings. Ooky, that's a professional term, by the way.
Tim Sudano's Dictionary of Paranormal Investigation.
That's right. When things get ooky, chapter 4. I should write that.
I would put that in your next book.
Yeah, that would be my next book. I like it.
Yeah.
But but yeah, when things get super ooky and you hit that wall of weird at the threshold of even a property, I've had that happen. Like, you cross the threshold of a property line, you're not even in the house. Something's off. And that's another weird thing, actually. The whole property line thing, like it's bizarre. Sometimes it bleed over into the house next door, sometimes there isn't. Most times, and I've seen this a number of times in different cases, there's this border, like the spiritual activity or whatever it is locked into the either the plot on which the house or dwelling or business sits, or they're in the building itself. And nothing outside happens, but inside, chaos or, something weird for sure.
Yeah.
It is a wild phenomenon. That just flabbergasts me every single time. Every single time.
Have you ever had this happen? Go ahead.
No. I was just going to ramble on that point, but go ahead.
Have you ever had this happen? It only happened to me once, but I've been hearing more about it with investigations and Bigfoot investigations. We went to this cottage to investigate, and I'm about 20 feet away from the house. And the closer I get, the more I feel like I'm walking through Jell-O.
Oh,
That's the best way I can describe it. It was so weird. It only lasted maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. But the closer I was getting to the house, the more I felt like I was like just walking like in a giant amount of Jell-O. It was the weirdest thing. And then apparently because there was a forested area all the way around the cottage, and apparently she had Bigfoot activity too. So was that infrasound? Was it? I don't know what it was. It was bizarre. Never had that before. But the last few years, I've been hearing more and more people use that exact same terminology. I was walking through Jell-O, and I was just like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, the atmosphere just thickens. It's so strange.
Yeah,
so strange. I had the Jell-O experience on that satanic case I keep talking about too many times.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that house was, man. But again, another example. That thing is beautiful day, a nice crisp, cool evening outside. Walk in there, it is a furnace, and they have the AC cranked up, and the air was so thick it was like walking through Jell-O. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
nobody else from the team felt it. It was
only
so
you
weird.
felt it?
Only I felt it. Yeah.
Ooh.
And I told them, I said, anybody else feeling that? And they're like, what? I'm like, I don't know. And I was having a hard time finding my words. And I just said, it feels like I'm walking through. And then I just said Jell-O. And they just kind of looked at me. And I'm like, no, it feels like I'm walking through Jell-O. Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
interesting. Your super psychic didn't catch that.
Yeah, I know.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, were you up there on a Bigfoot case or on a spirit case?
No, spirit case. But she hadn't mentioned. And before we entered, because we got there before the owners of the cottage, so we're just kind of looking around the property and all that. And I was transfixed. There was just something that was catching my attention to the left of the cottage into the forest. And I was like, anybody else picking up on that? And they're kind of like, yeah, we kind of want to look over there. So I started walking over and not thinking, it's like, what if there's a Bigfoot there? It's like, hello, pop the head off like those dandelion flowers. No, but I walked and then
throwing a rock at you. I mean, God forbid.
Yeah, had that once happen to me. Not there, but
no.
it was bizarre. And as I'm looking around, scanning, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to see if there's any movement or discoloration or anything like that in the woods. All of a sudden, the sensation went away. So that was really weird. Was it a ghost? Was it a Bigfoot? I don't know.
Both. Neither.
Ghost of a Bigfoot.
Hey, let's go with Bigfoot. I like that one. That's a good answer. I like that. The only Bigfoot experience I had, actually, I had 1.5. I'll explain that in a sec. I was there when it happened. There was this theater in the forest, is what it was called, and it was this little amphitheater that they kind of put up. They put a proscenium arch together with like scaffolding. It was pretty cool, actually. Cool, surprisingly well done. And but again, in the middle of the forest, you had to drive like into the woods in order to get to this park, and then that's where the amphitheater was. And we're watching, they're doing Shakespeare. I can't remember which play. And I think I've told the story like a couple 1,000 times too. But at one point in the show, the stench just ripples through the audience, and you could see the reaction as I could see it as it was coming to me. And I prepared myself. Oh God, what is it? And I waited, and it smelled like really fishy garbage. It was disgusting smelling, and it stopped the show. Literally, it's like, it just overwhelmed everybody. It's like, what the heck was that? Is this part of the show? What's going on? But I knew what it was. And I was looking for it too. It's like, where is he? He's got to be super close. If we can smell him. So I was looking for him.
You don't want to scream, Bigfoot! And
exactly. Everybody scatters and all that. So it was interesting. And behind the theater, the platform where they were performing was a significant creek. Nice little babbling brook kind of a thing. And I heard it. No one else did. I paid attention though, because everyone was looking at the actors, half gagging on. Right. I was looking for it, and then I hear splash. That's it. There's a bipedal thing walking through this creek, and the smell dissipated pretty quickly after that, and everyone got on with the show.
Wild. But
it was the atmosphere thing. As soon as you mentioned that, that's the memory that clicked in my head. Mm-hmm. And then the other half of that, I went looking for him a couple of years later.
Oh, did you?
I did. And I came
yourself?
away. No, I went with JJ. Okay. JJ was on the team, and Henry was there too. And we had a couple of junior investigators with us trying to learn the ropes. And that was an adventure. So I go up to the hills. JJ and Henry, it was a hot day. I mean, I don't blame them. JJ and Henry just sat that one out. It's like, go get them. Okay. So we got 3 juniors wandering the hills of this preserve, and I go up with them. We split off. It took forever to regroup, but I find this deer scapula that was really, really weird, and it was pecked at with birds, and a bunch of different things came after the thing. And I was about to throw it off when I caught the oblique view. The sunlight just hit things just so on the oblique of the shoulder blade, the scapula. Then I saw these very large humanoid-like teeth marks. Have you ever sucked on ribs and you go like that and you can leave your teeth marks in the wet of the bone? Yeah. That's exactly what I saw, but the teeth had to be like this big. This is where the jaw was, So a much bigger head than mine. Was trying to get all the meat they could off this bone. So I was fortunate. I was teaching at college, and I go to our animal husbandry. Anyway, a veterinary. That's what it's called, veterinary thing. I give them the scapula. I said, look at all the marks on here. Tell me what you see. So they go, oh, okay. Well, that was a bird, doing that. Those are coyote gnaws. And I said, yeah, look at the oblique on this surface here. Tell me what the heck that is. And they look at it, and they puzzle over it. And he said, can you leave this with us for a couple of days? I was like, yeah, sure. Wow. I come back a couple of days later. Answers, we don't know what this is. The closest thing we had in our database was a gorilla.
There's in a gorilla from California.
Yeah, something like a gorilla or something in the ape family for sure.
That's
wild. We don't know anything that big in North America officially. I said, okay, my thought was Bigfoot, if I'm being completely honest with you. And she says, unofficially, I can totally see you going there. It's like,
nice.
Okay.
That's almost like confirmation.
But it almost is, but no, she was smart. She said, unofficially.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I stunned them. I stunned an entire group of professionals. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Top of their game in the college system.
Nice.
It was good stuff. And I think I still have it somewhere, putrefying in my files.
But have to send you pictures if you find it.
If I can find it, I'll definitely do that. I thought I took pictures of it, but I digress. Let's see here.
So my daughter, about 4 years ago, there's a quarry about an hour away from us where you can pay a certain amount of money and you could go digging for your own amethyst, quartz. There's a whole bunch of different types of crystals there. And it was a Sunday, and she went with my sister-in-law and my sister-in-law's friend, so just the three of them. It was kind of a drizzly day, so when they got there, there was a family, but they left because it's a drizzly, cold day. You know, nobody wants to go digging for gems. You know, and the section that they were in, they're just on the outskirts of a forested area. So all of a sudden, my daughter's telling me this, and inside I'm going, "Oh my God, you totally saw Bigfoot." But she says, "Oh yeah," all of a sudden the stench that came out of the woods. And we looked at each other and we're just like, "Oh my God, what the heck is that?" And I think she said something about Bigfoot. And then the others are just like, "That's what we think too. So let's just go." And then as they approached the trail to go back to the parking lot, then the smell just gone. It's not like it dissipated slowly. It was just like gone. So when she told me that, I'm like, that to me sounds like there was a Bigfoot there. Like and then I even reached out to some Bigfoot researcher friends of mine. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. And they're like, "Oh my, that is totally like," they never saw it, but they didn't want to stick around in case. I don't remember she said anything was being thrown at them. I don't think so, but just the stench itself. And she knew because, you know, the field that I'm in, of course, she has an interest in that as well. So she knew. But when she was telling me that, I was just like, "And I didn't go with you?" Like, really? So part of me was envious that I didn't go, but it's like, oh. So this summer, my husband and I, and we plan on going with her again to try just to see, not just look for gems, but just kind of like look around, see if we see anything in the forest.
Smell anything.
Smell anything. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the stench is gonna, man, fishy garbage meets wet dog. It's all in there, and it's horrible.
Well, my daughter works. She's a meat cutter, so she has smelled some. You know, it doesn't smell great sometimes until you clean everything in the meat room, right? And she says this was so much worse. Like she'd never smelled anything like that before. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I've smelled my share of dead things. Yeah, I know where she's coming from.
Yeah.
And it was not the stench of death. It's the stench of, like I said, fishy garbage. Chiefly fishy is what caught me. It's like, oh my God, what is that?
Wow.
It's like someone had a dead salmon just resting on their shoulder forever. It was just
in the sun.
mingling with everything else in the sun. Yeah, right. Where there's a hat. I don't know what this thing was doing, but it was it was god awful.
Oh.
I mean, I've been to a local dump to dump stuff when I was doing contract work way back, and that's not the best smelling place in the world, but I prefer that to what I smelled that night.
Wow.
You know, that's Chanel number 5 compared to what I smelled that night.
Wow.
I'm not even close to kidding you. It was bad. It was bad. It was so stifling. Everyone just couldn't breathe, you know. Even through your mouth, you could almost taste it. It was horrible.
And it just suddenly dissipated, or is it like gradual?
It was semi-gradual, but it seems I heard the sloshes, and like maybe a minute later, the smell went with it.
Okay.
So.
Thankfully.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it went for a bath.
I would have been thrilled to watch this.
Maybe it went for a bath.
It was in the creek, yeah. Maybe it's like, what's all this weird noise over here? Why are all these humans gathered in this area? Is it a battle? What's happening? Well, I can only imagine things from his perspective. I mean, there's a Shakespeare show going on. He doesn't know what Shakespeare is. Maybe he does. I don't know. But, or she. But, goes stomping through the creek. What's all this strange light and noise? And I hear laughter every once in a while. I hear clapping. I mean, it's
What's
like,
going on?
what is going on? I mean, that's a curious sight you put on a show. And there's, big ones are said to be really attracted to very bizarre things. Like if you throw there was a report. God, I saw this on Finding Bigfoot a gazillion years ago, where it was a recent report too. It was somewhere in Northern California, like north of me even. And some kids decided to have a rave out in the forest. And then Bigfoot apparently showed up, they were watching them at first. And these kids got it's a rave, so they got a little lit.
Yeah, a little.
And they apparently one of them antagonized. I can't remember if they threw something at the eyes they were seeing. It's like, get out of here, because I thought there was like a wildcat or a wolf or something. Well, when they threw rocks back, they came back bigger. And everybody freaked. It was, oh my God. And they ran. Apparently, they abandoned their equipment when the Rangers went there the next day. Wow. It was, the grounds were a little trampled. There's garbage everywhere. And it wasn't that the kids were actually surprisingly responsible, because they had blue garbage bags, for trash. They had trash cans available for in case whatever you got to throw your soda cup away, and but these things were tied off at the top, but ripped open, dug into, rooted through. Now, yes, bears do that. Hell, raccoons do that. But the level of destruction was impressive when it came to these bags. I mean, they were fully ripped open, not tunneled into. Yeah. So it was that, and the fact that rocks were thrown. They said they found a couple of these. They weren't sure because no one would come back to the site to verify what was what. But they found some sizable boulders that looked like not boulders, but big rocks.
Yeah.
That came in, and they were next to some impact points in the dirt.
That's
and they were
quite
big. I mean, they were like, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of strength behind that arm.
Yeah, for sure.
Did they
so
fit? Did they know
the ground,
it was?
And I guess it rolled a little bit. It was. Well, they mentioned the smell. They mentioned the smell too. Mm-hmm. So the running theory is yes, that and apparently there were a number of sets of eyes shining back from the depths of the forest, and so there was a family or a tribe of them.
Do you recall if they ever mentioned the color of the eye shine?
I think they said red or amber, or a combination thereof, maybe.
Yeah, hard to tell at their state.
Say again?
It's kind of hard to tell with the state that they're in.
Oh, yeah. They're seeing all kinds of fun things when they're lit up like that, yeah.
Wow. You gotta imagine,
when I say lit up, I mean drugs, kids. They were using drugs.
Drugs, kids. Don't do drugs, kids.
Don't. Yeah, please don't. But,
that's
yeah, I mean, to have... It's an interesting experiment. They actually tried to recreate it on the show. They got a little bit of interest. Mm-hmm. But it's like these things kind of learned the lesson. They don't want to be around these loud people.
Yeah.
They didn't get any rocks thrown at them or anything. But, I don't know. The show always had... This is Finding Bigfoot. The show always held my attention. But it was always the same thing. We didn't find anything this time.
Yeah.
In a comparison, by the way, free plugs for all these shows.
Yeah, right.
When it comes to Expedition Bigfoot, yeah, for sure. When it comes to Expedition Bigfoot, again, free plug, they have some very interesting things up that they're showing on camera, which are, I guess, more definable as potentially being if not actually being this creature we call Bigfoot. So I find I'm really enjoying that show. The fact that they have a primatologist there is perfect. I think it's great.
Good. I've actually never watched it.
Give it a look. Their season in Tennessee is, I think, quite eye-opening. And then this season, they're in Washington, near, oh gosh, what's that break? It's all forced toward the northern end, I think, the northern end of Washington. There's these little cut-ins in the coastline. And basically, it's a fork. Or, you know, and they have all these dots where all these sightings have happened throughout the years.
Oh, wow.
And there's always this cluster, like, seasonally around this little fork in the land masses. And they think that's the mating ground, or one of the major mating grounds for the Bigfoot
Not
area.
a place you want to go to.
Well, they showed up. And I think the way things are going, they're getting a lot of strange activity. And they only went up there because they'd been up there before. Didn't have much luck, but they had some interesting finds. And they put a trail camera up there and left it up there all year round. And then they get these two big upright creatures walking, you know, let me give you a perspective, walking like this away from the camera.
Yep.
Not quite a line, but, you know, in a staggered line. The funny thing is, those creatures that they showed looked more like, from my perspective anyway, they didn't look terribly hairy per se. They almost looked like 8 foot tall chimps. I mean, they had the big ears, the sloped forehead, the protruding lips, and what have you, and that stubby nose and all that and stuff that you would see in a chimp, but walking like this. So it wasn't a hairy beast like Patty. So maybe it's a molting process that they go through. Who knows?
It's fascinating because just in the U.S. Okay, go. It's just so fascinating. It's okay. No, it was funny. How just in the U.S. alone, there's different colors, different sizes. Some of them are docile. Some of them are not so friendly. Some of them have a humanoid face. Some of them have more of a primate face. You know, it's just amazing how the descriptions vary, and if you just look at the United States. Now, JV Noseworthy, I'm going to plug her show, Paranormal NL for Newfoundland. She's also part of the UPRN family. She had an amazing guest on. I can't remember her name, but she's in Australia, and she was talking about the yowies. And it was very, very interesting because I didn't realize that Australia also had large variations of these creatures as well. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they are literally all over the world. That's the true crazy part about it. And yes, they are different. Stan, I'm blanking on his last name. He does tours up in Canada, actually. I think you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. He's got glasses. I can picture him. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, Stan takes his little tours up there, but he's been up there by himself. He did that documentary. I think he's got another one that came out recently. Go, Stan, free plug. And he, one of those pieces of footage he caught, though, was very, I guess, gorilla-like versus, and you see him peeking. He's got a log, and he's kind of peeking out at you like this, right? Yeah. He's kind of got a scowl to him a little bit. And he's blinking every once in a while. He's staying as still as possible, but it's pretty obvious he's there. And then, same area, you have the ones that I think look a little bit more like, I want to say marmosets. I could be wrong about what I'm trying to say. But they almost look like those smaller little chimps. Not chimps, but monkeys.
Monkeys, yeah.
And the big eyes, very round eyes, and a very small, And the ones with the long tails, and they got the pusa fur coming out the side. Yeah. I think that's a marmoset. I could pause and research it. I'm not gonna. But I mean, so in the same area, basically.
I have to look up
he
a name
found-
here, so I'm not ignoring you.
Okay. But in that same area, he saw the traditional Bigfoot, patty-like creature. Then we see these marmoset-like creatures as well. And then there's a cross between the two that look almost exactly gorilla-like with a pointed dome and the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the variation is, I think, obvious. I think. I mean, there's an environmental factor, like the Yeti's white for a reason.
Yep.
There's snow everywhere. You got to blend into your surroundings, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And what do they call them in Vietnam? They have a fun name, like the Lam Tup or the Namana or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
But the Vietnamese ones are decidedly shorter. They're as tall as me. I'm 6 foot, and but they're kind of lanky and orangutan-like, and that color, a little bit blonder maybe. And but they're wired a little more. They're like a little more wiry than orangutans, and they don't have that weird jowl thing that orangutans have.
Yeah.
So, and they run in groups, and
Todd Standing, is that who you were talking about?
Todd Stan. I called him Stan.
Yeah.
What a
I knew
jerk.
who you meant.
Todd Standing. Free plug, Todd. My apologies for getting that wrong.
Yeah. But I knew who you meant. I knew that wasn't the right name, but it's just like, I had to Google it. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks for correcting me. I'm glad we got the real name up there.
If he's watching this, maybe he's going, Stan's not my name. It's not my name.
I'm the one who got that footage, buddy. Get it right.
Oh, jeepers. We were all over the place today.
Yep, for sure. And we got 15 minutes left.
Wow, yeah, I know.
To fill. Well, one other thing that kind of strikes me, I mean, if I'm gonna stick with Bigfoot, is I had Ron Moorhead on.
He's someone I want to have on too.
About a month ago.
Nice.
Yeah, either Michelle can give you the information or I can. Maybe it's better coming from Michelle. But Ron was on, and he had, he has a really, I'd say, divergent theory about Bigfoot that's become more and more popular, especially with the notion that all this alien life we keep hearing about and maybe glimpsing here and there, the experiencers are telling us that, they're from an alternate dimension. Well, Ron's theory is that these Bigfoot are dimensionally I mean, they could just dip in and out of dimensions like no one's business, and they use trees like portals.
Interesting.
That energy, whether it's a matter of having coverage from the outside world and then stepping and then actually merging into the tree network or whatever, I couldn't say. But I mean, if a Bigfoot can quantumly transition from one reality to another naturally, because we don't see them wearing any technology. It could be an implant. We don't know. We don't know how advanced they actually are.
Well, maybe that's what we see for the Bigfoot. Maybe that's the suit.
Could be. The furry suit. I mean, we wear ghillie suits in the military to blend in.
Yeah.
They look almost exactly like that.
Maybe they're like the TARDIS.
So.
They thought that they were going to blend in. I had to throw that in.
Got stuck in phone box mode. That's too funny. Good times. That's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. Maybe the longer shaggy fur is a device or natural device of some sort that they adapted. I mean, we really just don't know, and I think that's chiefly what we have to acknowledge. We're operating on. I call it educated guessing, but and speculation works. But I'd say, given the experiences between you, me, and Ron, and I called him Stan, but his real name's Todd, have looked into, researched, what have you. Who's to say that Ron's idea isn't correct? Now, I will say that Todd, at least to my knowledge, has never said anything about that. He's never even hinted that the Bigfoot he's encountered do that.
I think you're right.
Which I find interesting.
He's more on the flesh and blood, just a creature. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting aspect. JV, that lady that she had on from Australia, this was really interesting. She claims that baby yowies, and that was so adorable, the way she said it with her Australian accent, little baby yowies. It was so cute. But anyways, that so that the adults can travel in dimensions, but as a baby, it's a learned thing. They can't just do it. So a lot of times, if you spot the parents and the young ones, it's because the young ones can't just poof disappear like the grown-ups, so they have to stay with the youngins. So I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting. That would say that they can't drag someone with them to another dimension.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be, you got to go with us, like, on your own. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
so
incredible.
I thought that was, I'd never heard that before. That was really a different point of view that I absolutely adored listening to.
Yeah, I'll have to take a listen to that episode. I haven't had an opportunity, so that's pretty cool. But I mean, I think I tend to lean as awesome as Ron is, as informed as he is. I had a little bit of a hard time, and maybe it's my limitation. I had a little bit of a hard time following him, like, on an intellectual level. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. I can follow him on an intellectual level. I know exactly what he's talking about. But I don't necessarily think that's entirely the case with Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot's... Now, I mean, that's not to say that some can and some cannot perform this, but I guess that's where I land. There are some species, and we've discussed this, there are different variations of this creature that can perhaps perform this, because we've all heard the stories. There's Bigfoot's footsteps, and suddenly they stop.
Yeah.
And they're, these things are like inches deep into the ground. This thing's stomping on through, so they're gone. It's not like maybe they did get beamed up by a starship. Who knows? But I mean, they could be. I mean, if I were an alien, I saw that thing walk around. I was like, wait, there's two hominid types. Let's beam that one up and see what's going on. But I don't. I'm just throwing that out there. But I'm thinking it's maybe only some can do it, and then there's a third option. Sorry, I had to make a rude burp. There's a story. Third option, yeah. There's a story about a lady, and I heard her on Coast to Coast. It was a replay, and I think her name's Ruth, because Ron Moorhead recognized the story when I told him about it. But basically, she's out in the forest. I want to say Colorado area. And she didn't pack anything but maybe something to sleep under. And that's not it. And some water. She's kind of the survivalist type, and she could eat off the land. I mean, she's picking grubs out of the bark at one point, and she hears someone call out, "Hey, I know, dude. I took survival training, and I had to do it, but I don't recommend it. They don't taste like chicken. It's a total freaking lie. It tastes like dirt. I'm not wet dirt, I might add. It's horrible, but it will give you energy. So, yeah,
True.
Bite the head off, chuck it on down your throat like a good shrimp, and use your imagination, pretty much. But back to my story. So Ruth, if I remember correctly, is doing her survival thing, and she knows someone or something is watching. And at one point, she hears a hey. She turns around. There's nothing there. She walks on a few more, I don't know, a few hundred more feet or yards, maybe even a mile. Hears it again. Hey. Turns around and sees this huge Bigfoot guy looming over her. Suddenly he's just there. And she stumbles backwards and she passes out. And when she wakes up again, she's in a cave. And she hears all this splashing and funny kind of noises that she can't really identify. Almost sounds like bears or wolves being, just having fun. They get playful and they get a little vocal sometimes.
Yeah.
She goes out of the cave and she peeks out, and it's a family, a tribe of Bigfoot frolicking in this little lake. And in walks the one she saw. She recognized, I guess he had a couple of gray streaks in his fur that were pretty definitive. And when he walks into the cave, his eyes light up red like a night vision. And he has a conversation with him telepathically. And from this point forward, it's all pretty much telepathic. She meets some of the his family members, and everyone else is just kind of like, I don't know why you brought that thing here. You should not have brought the human here. But whatever. He had seniority to one degree or another. And conversation gets going to one degree or another, and he says, well, we got to take off. We'll put you back where we found you. But we're going to have to pass you, make you pass out again. You're going to lose consciousness. That's what happened before I induced it. It's like, oh, why? What's going on? Where do you have to go? Oh, I have to, he keeps looking up as he, hems and haws a little bit. And he says, what are you looking up for? What's going on? Is there something oh gosh, is there like a meteor coming? What's going on? No, our ship is coming to get us. Ship, where are you from? And he explains this cluster of stars. I think it's in Leo. Don't quote me on that. I might be misremembering that. So, wait a minute. Are all the Bigfoot thing? No. We think they're part of a lost colony that came here a couple thousand years ago. But, they went savage and we can't really reintegrate them. So they don't even have this ability that, they do, but they don't. Yeah. So they're just a little too savage to return with us. So, but we do interact with them once in a while. Oh, so fantastic. And then she's forced to pass out again.
Wow. I wonder if that's why some people say there's, the woo-woo with Bigfoots, and others are just like, no, they're like primates because they're feral.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And they've had, over the years, so it's not Australopithecus giganticus, it's a freaking alien species that crash landed here a gazillion years ago. Hominid-like, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But
it's amazing.
Yeah. But again, that is just a tale. Although she stands by it, she's done shows about it, she's done conventions about it. So
I'd never heard that story. I have to look into it.
Yeah, it's a coast-to-coast archive story. I think her name's Ruth. You should be able to find her from there. It might take a little digging. It took me a little bit of digging to find her, but
I'm writing this down. Okay.
But you know what, folks? I do believe that is the end of our show. I want to thank Kat for being on this. Thank you, Kat. Thanks for being on the show today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a blast.
We'll have to do this again super soon.
Definitely, yeah. I appreciate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, no problem. I appreciate you being here, too. This is Tim Sudano with Paranormal Insight. That's Kat Ward. She can be found at Paranormal Heart Podcast here on the UPRN. That was a horrible intro, but look her up. Until then, have a good rest of the week, everyone. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com.